Tfue flat out says that Fortnite is not an esport and that it's not competitive, and well, we just have to talk about it. Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Krashy, and today I want to dive into my thoughts on Fortnite esports, the good, the bad, the ugly, and of course Tfue flat out roasting Fortnite esports and Fortnite professional players, saying that the game isn't competitive and that they aren't professional pros. So we'll take a look at that clip later in the video. You don't want to miss it, definitely stick around. But let's just dive into it, I guess. I really love making content like this. It's a current events, it's a little bit news related, but I always like to give my thoughts and opinions and then offer just a little bit of insight. I'm a little bit older, I've been around esports for a while, but the question of today is this: is Fortnite an esport? I held a poll on Twitter, and let's just go ahead and take a look at it. So I actually held a poll a couple days ago, or yesterday, whatever day it was, and I just simply asked, is Fortnite an esport? And this is actually, I think, probably one of my highest voted polls, so definitely shout out to you guys who are following me on Twitter. 247 votes, and 55.1% of you said yes. So, I mean, but 55% to 49%, that's pretty divisive. You know, it's a pretty big split, and actually for a while there, I think whenever it was like 100 and something votes, it was literally 50-50, so it was pretty even for the majority of it. But depending on your definition, or even just the literal definition of an esport, I'm sure that at the surface level the answer is yes. But I'm going to offer a little bit of perspective by telling you that I currently do not view Fortnite as an esport, and here's why. Wikipedia, lol, defines esports as such. Esports are a form of sport competition using video games. Esports often takes the form of organized multiplayer video game competitions, particularly between professional players. And while this is true of Fortnite, I often find esports is best defined as a vessel to discover and reward the best players of any game in the world. And again, this could be said about Fortnite, for sure, in a certain light, but unfortunately, I'm just not sure I feel like Fortnite accurately rewards the best players. Let me explain. It does, but it doesn't. Let me explain. When I think esports, massive titans in the industry come to mind: League of Legends, Dota, and Counter-Strike. One thing that really stands out about these games are the developers and their focus on competitive in esports. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure Riot Games and Valve haven't always been 100% perfect, but regardless, their games seem to harbor a competitive culture and aren't typically well known for the casual scenes within their game. Not to say that they don't have one. We're talking about competitive games that evolved into an esport with passion from the community and a competitive focused development team. Fortnite is very much the opposite, a casual fun game that had the same drive and passion in the community with a developer who has proven fairly often that competitive integrity and esports are not their main focus at all. So let's go ahead and give a shout out to Jirian for this next line.
But Krashy, Epic Games funded $100 million for Fortnite esports.
Yes, that's absolutely correct, but money alone doesn't inherently fit my definition of an esport. I guess the issue with Fortnite for me is the lack of focus on competitive when it comes to Epic Games' development. Surely the best players of any given meta are going to perform well, but overall the game has a very weird and silly way of giving strengths in the game. There's aim assist, overpowered weapons, like ridiculous drop spots, terrible competitive formats, and all kinds of poorly run online cash cups that, you know, only recently have gone to a 2-day format. And even so, with the 2-day format, because of the actual point format, it's just a W key fest. Fortnite feels like the esport that could have been. The Fortnite World Cup was the pinnacle of Fortnite competitive, riding on the hopes and dreams of every player who was passionate from the early days of the summer and fall skirmish. I know you guys can feel that. Now, I could probably talk for days about the history of Fortnite esports and just how amazing it was, but I'd rather give you guys my thoughts and feelings on why this current version of Fortnite esports just doesn't feel right to me. But before we do that, let's go ahead and take a look at what Tfue had to say about Fortnite competitive. I'm sure you've seen it, but let's go ahead and roll it.
Bro, I'm gonna say this now, like, Fortnite is not a competitive game. I don't care what anyone says. In my eyes, Fortnite is not a competitive game. It is not an esports, and you're not a pro player because this game does not have a competitive side to it. This game isn't competitive at all. It's not. Competitive Fortnite is not a thing. It's made up. It's not real. If you're a competitive Fortnite player, you're living in a fantasy land. Because this game is so far from competitive. It's not even close to even being titled that. Loser ass bitches. Yeah, dude. The Fortnite community is fucking garbage. It's filled with a bunch of fucking immature 12-year-old stream sniping pieces of shit that have nothing going for them in life, so all they do is just fucking cheat. That's how the game should be played. A kid that SMG should not be able to shit on somebody with a shotgun in a close range battle. That's not how fucking games work. I've never played a BR where an SMG or an AR can just shit on a fucking shotgun. Like, dude, it's so dumb. They need to fucking nerf ARs and SMGs, and they need to fucking vault mythic guns and comp.
So that's a pretty harsh take from Tfue, but I gotta say I mostly agree. To be very clear, there is one line where he says Fortnite isn't competitive at all. I definitely don't agree with that, and if I'm being completely honest, I don't actually think that's what Tfue means. To me, he just sounds really frustrated and is speaking boldly, as we all do from time to time. Fortnite competitive has felt very confusing and mismanaged over the past couple of years, and we've never really had a stable format. The balance in the game changes all the time, and of course we know how bad the loophole has been historically. Not just now, but historically. I think I'm fairly happy to wrap things up, but I just want to remind everyone how amazing Fortnite esports could be with just a little bit of tender love and care and focus from Epic Games. I love Fortnite, we love Fortnite, and regardless of my disdain with the state of competitive, my passion for that high level of play never falters. Watching players like Bizzle, Benji Fishy, Zayt, Booga, and so many others never ceases to amaze me, and it genuinely brings so much joy and excitement to my life. On that note, I want to pass it to you all with the question of the day, yet again. Do you think Fortnite is an esport? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments down below. And again, I don't mean for this to be a negative video. I just want to kind of dive into the past and think about, you know, how amazing this game could be if it actually just had a little bit of competitive focus, a ranked mode, a really tight and, you know, fair format, you know, something that balanced the points out, a really amazing loophole. But I just wanted to share an opinion of mine off the back of the words that Tfue had to say about Fortnite esports. And I know that so many of us feel that same frustration as well. In any case, thank you all so much for spending a little bit of time with me. I can't thank y'all enough for the love and support that I've been receiving. Drop a like on the video if it was at least, you know, a little bit entertaining, and consider subscribing if that's your thing. I appreciate you all for stopping by the channel, and I definitely can't wait to see you on the next video.
Do you feel your bones start to shake? Do you feel the earth?